Kani, and I am in Japan. I'm Japanese. I'm based in the place called Yamanashi. It's near Mount Fuji. I can see the beautiful Mount Fuji at the back from my window. And my background is I am an international certification trainer of the method called Tension and Trauma Releasing Exercise, TRE. It's a body-based method, the modality, to help people to release their tension in the body and mind, and also integrate some of the traumatic memories, but it's not psychological memory, it's a body memory, and to integrate, release and integrate in the system so they can really release their fight or flight response, and it will help their psychology to make sense and understand and move forward. So that's the method, TRE, and I'm a certification trainer. I'm training people to be able to teach others. And I also have a long history of humanitarian work background. So I was working in Asia for 15 years, helping people after mega disasters. I was in tsunami, earthquake, post-conflict, that kind of situation. I was in abroad for 16 years, and I came back to Japan after tsunami in my own country. And I worked in that tsunami zone in Japan for about 4.5 years. And when my work was almost done, there was an earthquake happened in Nepal in 2015. So I quit my job and I went to Nepal for a year, helping people with TRE to release their trauma. Now I'm back in Japan, being a certification trainer. It's one of 4 trainers in Asia. And I'm also working in South Korea, Vietnam, still helping Nepal. It's going to be in Philippines also next year. Try to combine TRE with my professional background of humanitarian work, because the founder of this method, Dr. David Baselli, created methods so that people in the war zone, it's less developed country, to be able to heal their own trauma without going to one-to-one therapy. They don't have resources, they don't have money, they don't have time. So this method is real self-help tool, so they can learn and practice at home. So I am, of course, need to make living. So I am doing training and I'm having private clients and working with a corporate, but I'm also using my time voluntarily to help people less privileged in those countries. I started TR in 2011 after I came back to Japan at the time of tsunami and earthquake. I was working in developing country for like 15 years and been to all the mega disaster places. And obviously I witnessed a lot of trauma, individual as well as generations of trauma. I wasn't a psychologist, I wasn't a doctor, so I thought that trauma therapy is something, the field of medicine. So I thought I'm not competent to do anything about it. But as an outsider, the aid worker, I go back to those areas again and again, like 3 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later. You see the city is already restored, new building, a lot of international aid goes in, build everything back, but people's trauma are not healed. And I started to see the impact on the next generation. There are more domestic violence, there's separation from the family, more loneliness, more depression, more suicide. So these numbers doesn't really show up in international report, because international aid like to pay for something which is measurable, quantifiable, right? You know, like 20,000 tents and then 4,000 schools and all that. So even though we all think that trauma therapy is needed at those areas, the money doesn't really go there because it takes a long time, it's over generations, and there is no clear indicator to show it worked, right? So I always thought we need something about this area. And it's not labor intensive, it doesn't require a lot of professional resource. Then when I came back to Japan, I found out about TRE and Dr. David Baselli, and I thought, this is it. This is like last piece that I thought it was missing from my professional work. So I started to learn then. And I became a full-time person now. Actually, I see the differences between developing countries and developed nations, especially in West, in terms of dealing with personal trauma. In developing country, inevitably, community is very strong, whether they like it or not, because that is their survival. You know, the community tie is really tight, and it has a negative impact because it reduces the personal freedom and expressions. But at the same time, how the children were brought up in those tight knotted community, it make them feel safe. Even though the poverty is there, the life difficulties there, their nervous system is very solid. So when the personal trauma happens, they have a lot of resilience to bounce back, that I notice. If you see these devastating situations in developing countries, how people can survive, right? And that was always my question. And I started working in developing countries before I worked in developed countries. So I thought that was just a human nature. But when I came back to Japan, also worked in the West, I started to realize that people are a lot more fragile. The nervous system is a lot more fragile because, well, the way they're brought up is a lot of the time babies are left in their own room, on bed. You know, they don't have this very close, tight contact with caretakers, you know, first 3, 4, 5 years when the children's nervous system is start developing. They learn what the safety is, what is the connection is, what is that sense of belonging is, you know. So I noticed that me included in a developed nation, our nervous system is a lot more fragile, a lot more vulnerable to the sense of separation, sense of devastation. Our nervous system is so easily get upset and affected, you know, become panicky, right? So in that, people in developed countries are a lot more fragile to disasters, political upset, all these things. So they really need to work with their own personal trauma. They got a lot of therapies, you know, we have a lot of time and individual resources to do that. And it is wonderful because a lot of people in developing countries don't have that luxury. But I think we really need to start working with our own body first, our breathing, our body. How do we connect to our body? Because a lot of us live without connecting to the body, because feeling body sensation, body anxiety, sense of loss, sense of separation, it's so much for our mind to take. We learn to separate from our body. We living in the dissociation, you know, feeling the body is so frightening. So we learn to just sort of live up there, you know, separate from the body. So I think the method, the body-based method, which help us to connect to the body safely again and start feeling our body sensation, feeling our emotions within the safe container, and then, okay, this is what it is. And then start releasing from our body before we even get to our mind. I think that is really important, because working around here, there is no end. You know, that's why a lot of psychologists who are working on trauma start giving up. Like, we're working on this for 10 years, 20 years, decades with a client, and they're still not getting better. Because trauma imprint is not in psychology, it's in our brainstem, it's in our body. We have to start releasing from our body. Then when nervous system calm down, our body knows we are in safe place, we don't have to fight or flight. Then our neocortex, our rational mind, can start making sense what it all means, right? There is one trainer in Canada, you're in Canada, right? Who's actually my supervisor, my teacher, John MacDonald. And there is also the international website, traumaprevention.com. And there is a list of providers all over the world. There is many of them. There are many of them. Providers are also available in Canada. I don't know how many, but quite a few, West and East. And then the trainer, John McNaught, can also train people to be able to teach this. Immediately after disaster, people need to be in alert, because they still need to find the shelters, you know, they need to find their safety. there are reasons for the nervous system to be alert and be in a sympathetic nervous system. So I would allow that time for them to be in alert. It's called PTS, post-traumatic stress, but it is not a PTSD, the doctor diagnosed it. It is like a normal symptom for human body to try to recover from the shock they experienced. And it takes some time, and this is completely normal. They can't sleep, they feel anxiety, they feel that heartbeat faster and things like that. This is normal. The body try to deal with that tension and allow that to happen. And the body want to shake. This shaking mechanism is really important. When you see animal get really stressed and after that the body shakes, like dogs and cats, that is how the human body designed also. When the human gets so intensely stressed, when the danger is over, body naturally start shaking. When you're nervous before you go on the stage, your voice shake. That is normal. The body try to release that excess amount of adrenaline and cortisol in the body so that body can relax. This is so natural. But our human mind always judge shaking is bad. It is embarrassing. It's sign of weakness. We shouldn't do that. Children shaking their legs like, oh, it's really restless. You have to stop that. Stop shaking, So we are all taught shaking is not good. It's unhealthy for medical terms, or morally it's embarrassing. So we have to stop thinking that when body starts shaking, the body is trying to help restore the nervous system to calm down, to be neutral again. So I would say after disaster, after any emotional shock, if the body starts shaking, the tremoring, that is welcome. And that will help a lot to stop prolonging the impact of stress and tension long term. TRE help body naturally shake again. So we will do the very simple exercise first, create the deliberate fatigue in the muscle, and that induce this natural neurogenic shaking. You see? So for example, my mom fell down in front of the house and then she hit her hip. And nothing was wrong. It wasn't broken, it was just bruised. And mom said, oh, no, it's fine. But I said, please do TRE, please shake it off. Because that impact in that one part of the body is spreading all over your body with the fascia and everything. Maybe 3 weeks later, if she doesn't release this shock from the whole body system, she will start feeling pain in the neck. She start having a headache. She doesn't know where it's coming from because it's such a big time gap. But it might be starting from that one big shock from one part. But then the whole impact is throughout the body. So when you shake whole body. You shake hands, you shake hip, you shake head, and that is releasing this impact. And that body restore itself to that neutral where there is no stress there.